One after another, Albuquerque police officers have decided to give up their badge rather than be interviewed by Internal Affairs. All of this happening during a federal and internal investigation into what we've learned involves accusations about officers getting paid to get DWI cases dismissed. KRQE investigative reporter Gabrielle Burkhart sat down with APD Chief Harold Medina to ask how officers will be held accountable if they keep walking away.
2 months since Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina announced his department launched an internal investigation into its own DWI officers.
I was not shocked that any of them resigned and that they weren't going to make a statement to us.
5 officers have resigned from APD, all targets of the Internal Affairs investigation, and all connected to a federal investigation we've learned surrounds accusations officers were getting paid to get DWI cases dismissed. Lieutenant Justin Hunt resigned in February after 24 years with the department. Honorio Alba resigned that same month after 10 years. This month, both Harvey Johnson and Nelson Ortiz resigned after serving a combined 18 years with APD. And the latest to resign just last week, Officer Joshua Montano. He's been with APD nearly 20 years. Each of the 5 officers turned in their badge before an internal affairs investigator could interview them about possible involvement in the corruption case.
When they choose to resign rather than talk to IA, do you see how that looks?
I think it looks horrible on the individual officer, and I think it looks bad and it makes them appear guilty. But I also know that an inconsistent statement or anything that they've told the FBI before could be a federal charge for lying to an FBI agent. So they have a lot at stake here coming back to us.
Chief Harold Medina believes those officers are following an attorney's advice by not talking and claims completing the investigation is not only possible but a priority with other witness interviews. Meanwhile, a 6th officer, a commander of the Internal Affairs Division, remains on administrative leave.
Could this go beyond these 6 officers?
Without a doubt, we're seeing that the possibility is there. And we are currently still working through. A lot of individuals have retired.
And if those officers were part of a corruption scheme, it raises the question,
how do you ensure to the public, that officers will be held accountable when it seems like some of them have quietly resigned or retired?
Gabriella, we can't force them to continue to stay here till we terminate them, but these individuals have immensely lost. There's some that are extremely close to retirement that are losing out. And we haven't even gotten to the point of criminal accountability.
Financially, he says they're losing out on paychecks and a full career with retirement benefits. And when the FBI completes its investigation, there could be federal criminal charges.
We may not ever know the full truth and get every single member, but we will do our due diligence to ensure that there's accountability to anybody who wore this uniform and badge in the past.
The federal investigation prompted the Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office to dismiss more than 200 pending criminal cases, mostly DWIs the 5 officers were connected to. KRQE Investigates uncovered red flags in some of those cases.
If you need to get off of this.
I do.
Okay, you're at the right place.
Connecting certain officers' DWI arrests with defense attorney Thomas Clear III's office, whose home was also raided by the feds.
The part where you read between the lines is some sort of benefit to the officer from the attorney who charges well above the market rate.
News 13 obtained a copy of Officer Montano's resignation letter, which states the issues I let myself get caught up in within the DWI unit were generational. In order for him to talk, he says he, quote, needed to not be the city's scapegoat for its own failures. He wrote, I take responsibility for my actions. But Montano doesn't elaborate.
But I gave my commitment to the public, no stone will go unturned.
Nearly a decade into being under the watch of the Department of Justice in a settlement agreement focused on reform, this year APD is closer than ever to full compliance. Since news of the DWI scandal broke, critics have asked how this wasn't brought to light earlier.
I honestly compliment so many parts of where we are today because we actually went in compliance and had accountability set up.
The chief credits part of the reform process with exposing wrongdoing.
A lot of the changes we've made through our reform process actually, I think in the end is going to explain quite a bit as to how this scheme was forced to change to the point where it became exposed.
Have you learned anything that's surprised you through this process from January, to now?
And I've learned that politics are rough, and God put me in this position, and I'm in a good place in my life and in my career where I'm here to do the right thing. But it is, without a doubt, been probably the most challenging 3 months of my 29 years of law enforcement.
Gabrielle Burkhart, KRQE Investigates.
Chief Medina says he's already filed police misconduct reports with the State Law Enforcement Academy, which could impact those officers' law enforcement certification. He says the public will hear about results when APD's internal investigation is complete.